But then my boss came to me and he said, "You've outgrown the job. Now you need to be president." And that's the first time I heard the word president. I became angry and I said, "Why do you think I want to be president?" He said, "Because that's who you are." And he said, "We have a lot of historically black colleges and universities within the Methodist family, and I think you need to be a president of one of those institutions." Now that was concurrent with the time period when I was seeing terrible things happening, especially to our young African American men. I remember going to church one Sunday and thinking, what is my role in being a part of changing some of the things that are happening to our young people? So it didn't take me long to finally be persuaded to apply for my first position at a HBCU, which was Philander College in Little Rock, Arkansas. I remember going for the interview and feeling really kind of conflicted. Before I left, the chair of the board said, "I want you to hold this date because we want you back at the executive committee meeting," and I knew I had the job. Shortly after that, I was the first woman ever to serve in that position as president. It was an amazing role.
What was the condition of Philander College when you arrived?
Few buildings. Most of the students were from low-income families, many from the Arkansas Delta. The tuition was very low, so it was a lot of deferred maintenance. There were no flowers, the grass wasn't cut. The last president had done a great job. He'd built gates around the campus. He had built 2 buildings, but still there was very little there. And I prayed to God and I said, "God, this university needs a miracle." It took me 3.5 years, but with the help of the alumni and the trustees and the community, we raised $30.5 million, mostly for infrastructure. I remember going after a very competitive grant with the Donald Reynolds Foundation for a new library technology center. All the people that I would go to, they would say, "We want to wait and see what you do." And I was discouraged. I said, if everyone tells me that, I won't be successful in trying to, get the resources that we need. I made friends with a lot of the people who had resources. They liked what they saw. But it wasn't until I went to California to a United Negro College Fund function. And I remember we were invited to meet with some of the alumni from Philander Smith. And there was one woman that was known to have resources, and the reception was at her home, beautiful home. My role was to really link up with her that night. But instead, there was a little lady that sat next to me with a little cotton dress on, very petite, and she was very sad. And she talked about losing her husband, losing 2 sisters. And I guess I had my ministry hat on that night because I spent the whole evening talking to Miss Wiley. And Miss Wiley said, "Well, I want to give a little scholarship to Philander Smith, and I want you to call me in the morning." And I said, "Well, Miss Wiley, what time would you like me to call?" She said, "I get up at 5 a.m., call me then." And I went, "Oh." Well, sure enough, the next morning, 5 a.m. wasn't so bad because I was still on Eastern time. I called and she was impressed, and I was thinking I'd get about a $1,000 scholarship. I kept calling Miss Wiley, checking on her. I was very concerned, but I also felt very bad that I did not really connect with the person that I was supposed to. Nevertheless, I was sitting at my desk one day and Miss Wiley called and said, "How are you doing, President Reed?" And I said, "Well, I'm not having a good day. We're up for accreditation. I have termites in my library. My books are like 1950 era, and I don't think we're going to get past accreditation." She said, "I tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to overnight you a $500,000 check and you'll get it tomorrow." And I almost fell out of my chair. After Miss Wiley gave her gift and we publicized that someone who was affiliated with our school, a graduate, gave the gift, it was like the floodgate opened and other donors came to the table. I remember Winfred Rockefeller's foundation gave us $2 million. The Donald Reynolds Foundation gave quite a bit.